Hey there, everybody. This is Sunday with the Boys here. Here with Sunday with the Boys. Sunday with the Boys here. Sunday with the Boys. This is Sunday with the Boys.
No jokes, bro. Honestly,
Whoa.
Yeah, we're tired of hearing dude stuff. Cause screw the boys. Ooh.
Hey there, everybody. Here we are in Chinatown.
We're here right now, downtown Toronto.
We're outside of Rebel nightclub here in Toronto.
We're here to find out what people's side hustles are.
We're just gonna try to get random street photography shots.
We're gonna interview people on what their New Year's resolution is.
shirtless with khaki pants and fishing. If they're fishing,
We'll see you guys next time at Sunday with the Boys. Peace.
Just another Sunday with the boys, yeah!
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the show. It's Sunday with the Boys. How's everybody doing today?
Top of the morning.
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Isn't this crazy, this corona stuff that's happening?
We've been getting a lot of shitty news recently. With the Kobe thing, the coronavirus, the, whatever else is going on all around the world. Like that bushfire we were just talking about a couple of weeks ago. What's going on? 2020, man.
It's crazy, man. This coronavirus is officially been declared a state of emergency by the WHO. Right now, we have almost 213 people have died in China because of coronavirus. Almost 11,000 cases reported, because you don't know what China's hiding. And we have 98 cases in 18 different countries. But luckily, outside of China, there have been no deaths. Man, I don't know. This is absolutely crazy. And it's not just the disease that is the crazy thing, but also the social echo that has been left behind. I'm hearing lots of stories on social media about racism based on this virus. Like, Amin, have you seen anything about this or read anything about this?
I haven't seen too much about it, but I mean, on social media, there's always going to be someone trying to joke about things you shouldn't be, making light of. Whenever there's something that's so heavy in terms of, crisis and emergency, things that send people into fear, then that xenophobia stuff starts to arise, right? People start to spew racism towards a whole community when that whole community isn't representative of the virus in itself. So it's heavy stuff. I see people joke about it, but it's pretty unfortunate right now.
When does a joke go too far?
When does a joke go too far?
That's the question of the century, because recently people get offended by everything nowadays, right? All these Chinese people have all the rights to be offended because of how social media is kind of portraying them, right?
So as someone who looks Chinese, I don't want to run into an incident where it's like, you motherfucker, you sick, and people yelling, screaming, all that kind of stuff. Maybe it will happen to me, maybe it won't.
I don't think so.
No, you don't think so?
All of that stuff is closeted.
Well, here's an example of a microaggression. So we were planning a Christmas party for our company because we work in retail, and essentially we were looking to do a party in January because this is when it's a little slower. And we were originally going to do karaoke in Chinatown, and that was the idea from the very beginning 3-4 months ago. But now with this stuff, everyone's like, oh, fuck the Wuhan clan, like I can't go to Chinatown, I ain't getting sick. But there's only 3 confirmed cases in Canada, guys. With this kind of fear-mongering that's being created, not only with meme sharing, social media. I mean, once again, a joke's a joke until someone's livelihood gets destroyed. We have a noodle restaurant in Markham, unfortunately called Wuhan Noodles since 1948.
I saw that. And business for them is not going to look nice. That was posted all over social media. I think that's one of the things that I actually saw online that was, the xenophobia, But people think they joke about things, when people's lives are at risk, just think there's certain things you should leave off the table.
Right. And right now, what you have is this fear-mongering that's happening, not only here, but all over the world. We joke about it with our friends and family, and I told my girlfriend, we can't go to Markham anymore, but as a joke.
Yeah.
Not seriously, right? And like I said, when does a joke become not a joke anymore? It's such a fine line.
Yeah, I think it's fine between friends, but when you're doing it between strangers and you don't know what the stranger's been going through, it's just, you can take it really, really far and nobody would know, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's just certain things you can't joke about when people's livelihoods are at risk. And when you're pushing a certain narrative through these jokes that are funny between you and your friends, you don't know how the next person is feeling about it. Something like that could be directly affecting them, and it might not directly affect you.
Yeah, and the power of social media, the ability to influence people in such a distasteful matter sometimes, right? Even if it's a joke, people will be subconsciously thinking about it all the time. Yeah, like, you know, you see Chinese people wearing the mask. Well, yeah, not everybody's wearing it too. They're all getting subconsciously trained into thinking this is like the worst thing ever. It's like the next SARS, right? That's what everybody's thinking.
Yeah. I'm worried too, because the film industry got kind of destroyed by SARS back in 2003. Essentially, what happened was the WHO put a travel advisory on Toronto because we were the biggest outbreak outside of Asia, with 44 people dying.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving my house.
Yeah. And guess what? The Americans stopped coming to Canada to make movies in 2003.
Oh, no.
The industry kind of got destroyed. No movies were being made here, no TV shows were being filmed here, only reality TV, and that's when Canadians started to boom in reality TV. But that's pretty crazy, and if that were to happen again, that would destroy a lot of industries. But
rightfully so, you know, like if you're uncertain about something,
oh my God,
you know, it's really, I think it's normal for you to be like, all right, I'm just gonna take extra precaution. People need to be quarantined because you don't know how to deal with something. Then that's what you might have to do for now until there's something more reliable that can make me feel comfortable, you know, shaking people's hands again. Like,
yeah, it's true.
I don't even fist pump anymore. I'll just give you a salute right now until like just scrub my hands. And you know,
what is it, like the elbow to elbow? Yeah, that's good, bro. Like when you're sick, you gotta give somebody a prop, you do the elbow.
Yeah, trust me, it has to be like that for now.
The best thing I can say is wash your hands, people.
Yeah, and be nice to strangers. Speaking of strangers, right, we got a special guest today.
Oh my God, you're right, we do.
I think they're all wondering who it is.
Okay, we have Obano here today on our podcast. Amin is actually a very good friend of mine, and he's worked with Jerome when we all worked together at one point.
Yes.
He's super young. He's an up-and-comer. He graduated with a business degree and a post-grad. You know, right now he's doing the corporate grind, and, you know, he has a couple words to say about that. I'm going to pass the puck over to you, Amin. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, you already did a pretty good job. I mean, I'm just working right now, going through corporate like a lot of people who graduated from school are doing, just trying to figure out life. But, you know, just realizing that a lot of things that people make you feel are super important aren't the most important. So
what do you mean? Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Well, you know, like when you're going through school, at least me, because my parents were immigrants, so education's always been a huge thing. For me and my siblings, my family, right? You know, when you relocate, you want the best for your kids. That's the reason you move, right? You want an opportunity. So education's always been a thing. But like when you go through the process, you graduate from high school, you graduate from university, like the decisions that you make to choose the career path you want to take, you're making that decision so young, right? It's not a decision that I feel like anybody who's, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-old can be making. They don't even know themselves. So I've done that, trying to figure it out, because obviously I graduated and it's tough to even find work in your field. So just navigating life with that information, knowing it's not too serious.
Did you wish you took some time off before you went right into work, into school? Like, did you wish you had, or maybe like, did you wish you took some time off in between degrees? Like, do you wish you had a little bit more guidance, like as someone who's younger and who's feeling this kind of turmoil these days? What could have been done better for you, do you think?
I don't know. Well, in my family, I'm one of the oldest, so you can look at it as being the guinea pig. Immigrant guilt, I wouldn't say. I still obviously want to make sure that I do a good job so I don't let anybody down, you know?
I think that's the definition of immigrant guilt.
Is it? I mean, like,
we talked about this before.
It's a little bit, but I don't think that it's like encompassing of my whole experience. I might be a part of it, but I was just a guinea pig, so I didn't really have someone who was born here to say, you know, this is the game plan. If I had to do it differently, could there be things that were done differently? Yes. Would I do it differently? No, because now I feel like I have the playbook for my young cousins, my younger brother. I have an idea of how to navigate the situation for them. And, you know, if it came at my expense, at least I can feel good when I see them, you know, making decisions I might have done differently had I had someone there.
It's funny saying you. We talked about this in the other podcast where we talked about the immigrant guilt. You don't want it to be real, but it's kind of like trained into our head. It's like drilled into our head without us actually knowing. Our parents came here and sacrificed everything for us, and they will never ever make you forget about it. It's like 100%. You do everything in life right, but remember, your parents sacrificed everything. They come here and they will never ever make you forget about that.
I don't know, for me, the reason I kind of struggle with identifying with the whole thing is because my parents have never made me feel guilty, but you can see by I know, man. No, I don't even think it's microaggressions. I just think they took advantage of an opportunity and they kind of, they worked their way up from when they came over from Nigeria to Montreal, relocate to Brampton, right? They've done a lot of things to put food on the table, but they've never made myself or my brother feel a type of way. But when you look at the situation, you understand it. When you grow a little older, you can wrap your mind around the fact that this easily could not have been the case.
Can I ask you a question then?
Yeah, sure.
What is your dream job?
My dream job? I don't know what my dream job is.
You don't know what
I'm still figuring it out.
Okay, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was very naive, probably wanted to go to the NBA. I wanted to do that for sure.
Listen to me. Like, okay, you wanted to go to the NBA. Were your parents super supportive of that decision?
Nah. Of course not. They're realists. Like that's when they might guilt you, try and find a way to sugarcoat it. But like
this is what we call the immigrant guilt.
I mean, I think it happens subtly without you knowing. Like for my parents, it was very at the forefront. Get a good job. Make sure you work in an office with air conditioning. Don't be like us. Don't work in a factory. Don't lift heavy things. Like we came here for you. We came after the war so you guys could have a better life. Obviously for themselves too, but also mainly for their kids. And as you grow up with that, and maybe I had a sense of justice, or like I felt like I had to fulfill something, because out of my 4 siblings, actually none of us went to university. None of us we're actually 4 of 4 high school dropouts. So the immigrant struggle is so real in this family. Kind of circling back to this and this idea of a corporate job, like they were able to get jobs in factories and were able to work in these factories for 20, 30 years with pensions and benefits and RRSPs, and they're able to buy a home and all that kind of stuff. And now these days, we're in a day and age where this idea of working for a company for 40 years with a pension is over. Not many corporate jobs have job security either. They see you as an expendable number. You're not worth anything to corporations. Corporations would rather hire from the outside than actually bring you up from the inside. And proof of that is I have a friend who was hired from the inside up to his position as an analyst. And then when he asked for a raise, they gave him his nominal raise every year, didn't give him a big bump, but they hired somebody from the outside with the exact same experience, or if not less, and got paid more. So this goes to show you how corporations really value their employees. And I mean, Armin, you're kind of navigating the corporate world right now. Do you have any opinions or anything to say about that?
Well, a lot of that is true, and it's kind of unfortunate because I work with you, so I've worked sales jobs, I've worked customer service jobs, and you know that when you're on the front line of the business, you're very responsible for the amount of business that you retain. So the amount of people you keep happy, the amount of people that you get to stay with your company or with the company you're working for. And you're also responsible for onboarding new clients, new customers. And I just feel like as someone who's been on the front line and someone who knows how important and instrumental that role is, the encouragement to grow or the opportunity to grow within a company is not there from the front line. From my experience, people who are doing other type of roles or other positions within one of these large companies a lot of the times don't have customer service experience with these institutions, right? They're getting hired straight from, taking a MBA. Doing a master's or having a really, I guess useful degree, right? And they just get plugged right into the mix. Whereas people who are actually on the front lines, who I feel like would have a lot more to offer, or a really underrated skill set don't really get the opportunity to fix things on the way up. But everything's just a mess, and it's all about money at the end of the day. So
It's crazy how many 22 and 23-year-olds are making multi-million-dollar decisions just based on a piece of paper. So lots of corporations have grad programs where they hire directly from school. And I'm talking about like mid to senior level executive status. So you would have your managers, your mid-management, your senior management, and then your directors and vice presidents and so forth in any kind of corporate structure. And usually 22-year-olds that graduate from Schulich or U of T and they have their MBAs will come into their jobs making $120,000
As a senior management position right away.
Right away, yes. They come in pretty much with their after graduating from their programs. They will come in pretty much at a probably anywhere from like an $80,000 to $120,000 job, usually, which requires making multi-million-dollar decisions. And they're only 22.
I get that. My buddy actually works at a bank, and he's an analyst there, and he moves money and he purchases like systems for like millions of dollars at a time. They're moving, like you said, they're creating millions of dollar decisions for certain companies. And yeah, you're right, but that's still kind of like I'm still trying to wrap my brain around a person that's just recently graduated and gets hired to become a senior management position.
Isn't that kind of bullshit?
It's bullshit. Like, I'm just thinking, I'm like, how about the people that's been working there for like the past decade, who's been in the same position? You didn't get the exact same opportunity to, now you're giving it to somebody who hasn't even had an ounce of experience of working at the job or what the company is all about, right? That's ridiculous.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, but at the same time, more power to you. Like the map or like the guide to get to that point where you can put yourself in a situation to be 22, 23, 24 years old and be making that money and making those decisions. And I applaud you. Like for me, it's kind of like I didn't really have that roadmap. Had I had the roadmap, maybe I would have tried to aim for something like that. But, obviously when you go to school and like you do your master's or you go to school and you graduate from one of these like rotational grad programs that these big like corporations have, they're looking for like a baseline level of skill to show that you can make some of these decisions. Obviously with guidance, I don't think that they let you make these decisions without any help or mentorship,
Of course.
But I'm saying that it would be useful to have that frontline experience to understand where the actual customer is coming from and at least implement that into your decision making, But a lot of the case, that's not the time. That's not how it works.
I still do not believe any 22-year-old should be making multi-million-dollar decisions. I feel like comes off as unfair, like Jerome was saying, where you have an employee, they've been on the front line for 10 years, they have the right education, they have the experience, but they won't get the interviews, they won't get the opportunities that people coming out of these programs will get. And when they go ahead and go get that further education and further training that is required for these positions, just because they're an internal employee, they still will not get looked at. That's fucked up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and bringing it back to that decision making as like a 22, we're not saying that it's not like, it's not reasonable to be 22-year-old making millions of dollar decisions, right? I mean, like, yeah, it can happen. But I'm just saying, like, there's a whole entire spectrum of ideas, and there's other side of the people who are willing to try, especially with big companies like these. And the reason why big companies like these don't care for their employees is because they're huge. They have thousands of employees. They have employee numbers rather than real names, right? Let's bring it back to that age thing. We were talking about how, like, you're this 16-year-old and you're graduating and you have to pick your direction, your route. Like, I think that's that decision as well. I think that's really ridiculous, but I can see why they made it like that. But I think as a 16-year-old, you shouldn't be making a decision to map out the rest of your life, because there's some people who are so they're fortunate to have the roadmap, right, to finish this schooling, this new set of life. But a lot of people after high school, they don't. Like, they're kind of left out on their own. They have to figure out how to apply for OSAP. And as a kid, imagine being a 16-year-old, like, trying to figure out finances and my mom just gave me $20 for lunch money for the week, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to split that up for lunch and like for the next 5 days. And now I have to figure out OSAP giving me $6,000 in my bank account, my personal bank account. You think I'm responsible to like not spend that shit?
Trust me. Yeah, there's a lot, man.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back down to education at its finer levels. I mean, you obviously know the strikes that are going on in Ontario with all the teachers, and like, I am all for education and supporting our educators, because personally, I don't, even though I'm a technical high school dropout, like I didn't finish on time and I kind of left early. I finished on my own accord. But because I'm a dropout, quote unquote, I really had a lot of admiration for my teachers, and I really, really liked what they had to teach me and what to say. And a lot of people aren't with the way education works in Ontario, because not everybody learns the same way. Yeah, same way. It's not everybody can read a book and retain, and not everyone can listen to lectures and retain.
Though falling asleep,
oh my god, falling asleep all the time. Teenagers aren't actually meant to, they're not physically wired to wake up at 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
There's lots of studies and all that kind of stuff. This whole kind of topic comes back to being 16 years old, having to decide whether you want to take academic or applied math. Yeah. Because you have to decide whether you want to go to university or college. And everyone's telling you, especially immigrant parents, are like, you need to go to university because we came here, we don't speak the language, we're not educated, we want you to be educated. And as someone who's a college educated grad and who's still seeking this post-secondary and this higher level of learning, it's still inside of me because I want to do it for my parents. It's not even for me at this point. I feel like I have to do it because not a single person in my family has gone to university yet.
Really?
Yeah, none of us have. All four of us. So my mom and dad aren't university educated, of course. I'm college educated. My brother is college educated. My little brother is in college right now, and my little sister is still figuring it out.
So you're the oldest brother?
I'm the second.
The second oldest.
I'm the second. Yeah, my older brother right now, he works in a factory. Has his wife and kid. Myself doing this film industry thing. My little bro, he's in for mechanical engineering, but he was a smart kid. He was a very, very book smart kid. And when I talk about immigrant guilt, I feel like sometimes he was the forefront of it because I was away around the age he was going into high school. And this kid was doing the Asian six-pack, physics, chemistry, math, calculus. He's going to be a doctor. He legit snapped, stopped going to school.
Wow.
Because of all the pressure.
Wow, really?
And kind of just was like done with it all.
Oh my gosh.
But like immigrant guilt, I feel like it's not a bad thing.
It's not bad.
It's very,
motivating.
It's not, because a lot of the times you're not going to like it. Just is what it is. Like if your parents are like, okay, like we came here, you're going to go to university. That's just what it is. You came here, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor. It doesn't matter. You're just going to do it because we didn't come here for no reason.
Yeah.
That puts a lot of pressure on these young kids. But at the same time, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, when they're doing what their parents, wish for them to do, or it's like when you shoot for the stars, you land at the clouds type of thing. Even though we're pushing you to be a lawyer or a doctor, we're just instilling that drive for you towards something, and you can achieve it. So even if you don't meet those goals, you're still going to do well for yourself, and you still have a mentality of sink or swim. And that's something that a lot of people, I feel like, don't have, and it's also a reason why some people get complacent. But that's not always a healthy thing to do, right?
No.
You can get a situation where your brother snaps because all the pressure is just not meant for him.
I don't know if you guys ever seen this. Maybe it's just a culture thing as well, or it's just a Filipino thing. I saw this video on Facebook where it talked about like Filipinos and like how they're the rumors between each other, like families, that the family get-togethers, how like really
the Titos and Titas.
Yeah, the Titos and Titas, they're all like talking about their kids, always setting them at this pedestal.
Joseph is so good, he goes to university.
Yeah, like something like like exactly like those words. But like little do people know, people get affected by those judgment. They set these like standards for their family, and they can't reach that standard, so they feel like they're a disappointment to their family. And you know how bad it is to feel that way, because at that point, right, instead of looking for your own happiness, you're looking for your family's happiness. It's not a bad thing, but at the end of the day, your own life is your own skin. It's your own breathing, it's on your beating heart. You got to make sure you live. This is your life. It's just crazy. Mental health for like these like family and cultures, it's a big thing,
because immigrants don't believe in mental health.
No, they do not believe in mental health.
It's a cultural clash though. Like it is what it is. At the time that my parents were born and raised is different, right? First of all, they're on a different continent, different country, and then they moved to a completely different side of the world where customs are different, right? Values are different. And then you're in a situation where, okay, your parents are immigrants, but you're born here. You go to school with all these white kids that were born here, or people who are like second generation Canadians. They live by different rule book, but then you're conflicted. You're learning all this stuff at school, and you come home, and then there's a culture clash. So you're torn, like, what should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? What's right? What's wrong? How come my friends can do this, but I can't? You're so hard on me with my grades, but my friends are out doing like fun stuff. But like, it's all for your best interest. I feel like for my parents, it all came from them just thinking it's what they felt was the right thing to do, because it's something that they didn't have. Little do they know that times are different.
It's all love at the end of the day, I think, and that's just their version of showing love, is to provide at the bare minimal, right? It's just like, make sure you go to school, you have food on the table, your grades are good, because that equals success.
They're doing what they know is best, or what they think is best.
Yeah, it's not their fault. At the end of the day, exactly what you just said. They're doing it for our own best interest, and what I think it's our best interest, right? But even always, even though it's not, because remember, in the end of the day, they grew up like in a harsher environment or like reality, but remember that there's different struggles per different time zones or whatever, right? Like everybody struggles their own different way. It could be big or small, but it doesn't matter how it is, it affects them in the end of the day, right?
And like when you've been through adversity, I feel like the only thing you're looking for is, how can I get away from that? How can I be comfortable, right? How can I put myself in a situation where I don't have to worry about stability? So why wouldn't I want that for my kids? If I know that stability comes from income, it comes from salary, comes from prestige, why wouldn't I push my kids in that direction so that they don't have to go through what I did, right? So I can understand it.
Yeah.
It's just not always...
It's not the right thing. I mean, it once again, it's all out of love and all out of want for the best for their children and the best for their futures. But sometimes that's not necessarily the right way. I mean, there's lots of different types of careers we can do where we're going to make a very good living that you don't need to be educated. So the film industry, the inside joke is, it's an industry of C averages.
C averages.
They weren't academically the smartest people, creatives.
Think differently, I guess, right? They learn differently. They learn, like, they absorb things that would only be applicable to their lifestyle or their interests.
How many Instagram dropouts do you know who now have a crazy social media following, making money off social media and all that kind of stuff? I know
thousands of people.
I know tons.
Thousands of people.
Just capitalize on the opportunity.
Exactly. It's all business at the end of the day. And that's just one thing I wish, like, my parents weren't really business people. They just worked for corporations, and these corporations took advantage of them. They shut down their corporation, moved to Mexico, and my mom couldn't even get a job with the company. So the company was New Well Rubbermaid, and they owned a blinds company. They owned a bunch of umbrellas of different companies. They moved the blinds company to Mexico, gave her a severance, and when she tried to apply for a job within the company umbrella, there was nothing for her.
There was no job.
But she gave 30 years to this company working in their factory.
Did she got
her severance was like 2.5 years.
2.5 years for 30 years?
2.5 years for 30 years.
Yeah.
See what I mean when I say that these corporations just don't care? And that's why we as the younger generation have to actually stop working for these guys and make our own.
I mean, it's they're essential. They're a part of life. I wouldn't say they're essential or they're a part of life, but it's the way how our civilization just became out as standardization, right? But if you break out of that system, and I'm not saying that everybody's comfortable breaking out of that system. Some people are in love with that system where, you know, they're comfortable with their 9 to 5s and relax afterward. If you break out of that system, you know, as people would say, stay woke, that's how you see the better things in life. The when you're talking about factory work versus office work, to be completely honest, if you just look at it the bare bones and write it down side by side and look at it structurally,
Same job.
it's the same job because you're doing the exact same thing. The only difference is labor, physical labor. Even in the office, you're not doing physical labor, you're doing mental labor. In my opinion, is so much more like stressful in the end of the day, especially if you're working at like a telecom like job where your job is to call hundreds of people in a day and, you know, have little nothing come out of it all. You feel like, you know, you just spent 8 hours doing nothing sometimes, and you know, then when something does happen, it doesn't feel as rewarding as it should be. And you know, like these corporations, they give you like these, like, you know, benchmark of salary, and they entice you with that idea of this is what you're expected to work the amount for, you know.
Yeah, they tell you that's what your value is.
This is your value. Can you tell somebody right now that, you know, you look like a guy that makes $45,000 a year, you look like a kind of guy that makes 26,000. Like how rude does that sound? It's not a really good way of, like, you know, judging people.
But that's why it's also important. I feel like so the corporations will take advantage of you if you let them, right? I think it's still an important part of life to go through these things. And if you're someone who can observe that this is not what I'm worth, you know, I have more to offer to the table, there's different ways I can go about doing this, then that's the lesson you're supposed to learn while you're working for that corporation. But the problem is some people become really enslaved to the idea for their own personal reasons. But I think that working for, you know, just working jobs in general for someone else, not working for yourself, is important to giving yourself that clarity and saying, okay, this is not what I'm worth. How can I pivot from this point and get it going a different way? Because if you let them take advantage of you, they're going to. Like, I've worked with people who really complain about this stuff all the time. There's so many numbers you have to stay on top of. They track you over your performance, and the performance targets are not easy to stay on top of. But at the same time, it's a situation you're putting yourself into. So I kind of always knew that this is not something that I wanted to continue doing because of those reasons.
So my last question for you, Amin, is: are you gonna keep on going with your corporate grind? Like, what's your game plan? What are you planning to do?
Well, I have bills to pay, so I need to work for as long as I need to work. Is that the end goal? Definitely not. But, you know, things are expensive nowadays, you know, so I have to continue working and still, but I'm not gonna work in like the mindset that, like, I hate it. Like, there's definitely been times where I've hated what I was doing, but I'm just trying to soak it up as much as I can while I'm in the moment, because I know that will not always be the case. And if you can absorb your situation and take it with you and run, those experiences are what's gonna, you know, shape your later experiences outside of the corporate world. So yes, still gonna have to work, you know, there's things I have to take into consideration, but it's definitely not the end all be all, you know. Knock on wood.
You know, yeah, you said that's not the ultimate goal. What's the ultimate goal then? What do you have as on the side right now that you're working on? I want to hear about the foundation on this.
Yeah,
I still don't know what the ultimate goal is. I'm still figuring it out. But I definitely know I want to do things that are going to impact people who have been in my situation. Going through university, graduating with, I have a psychology degree. I don't even know how you can implement that these days, but graduate, you spend money on a degree, you graduate, and then you end up not being in your field. But just because you're not in your field doesn't mean that, you know, it's the end of the world. Like, you don't even have to go to school these days, right? And I feel like, again, like we were saying before, you're forced to make such a large decision in life at such an early age, that when you make that decision, a lot of people are pivoting when they get to college or university. They change their program, they switch majors, whatever the case is. But now looking back at it, 2020, you don't even need to go to school. You can go to a coding boot camp, go to 2 or 3 of those, and then like online Google courses will be recruiting you, you know, you're making more money, you know. So there's different ways to navigate it. So
it's funny, like you mentioned that Google will recruit you. Like, these huge conglomerates, they don't even look at college graduate, university graduate. Like, yeah,
Look
they
for
do look at them.
experience.
Yeah, they look at the schooling. But now what they are heavily relying on is experience and what can you bring on the table, which is I love, right?
Yeah.
But still, there's still like tons of other, like, you know,
Yeah.
big major banks, like these huge conglomerates, these telecoms.
Have
Not saying
all
any of
these
the-
credentials that you need that nobody has.
Yeah.
Like, how am I supposed to get work experience if you want 4 right at the gate? Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't make
right?
it doesn't make
Ridiculous.
any sense. But like I saw something about Google and some other big companies, some tech companies. That's not a requirement for them anymore, right?
They're taking it out.
Yeah, it's not because it doesn't make sense in this day and age, and I feel like it's something that a lot of big companies are still playing catch up with. Obviously, because there's money behind it and recruitment and stuff like that. So, I mean, time will tell. You don't always have to wait for these corporations to play catch up because they're living so far in the past. It's kind of up to you to kind of, I guess, as corny as it sounds, take control of your destiny.
Yeah, that's not
Take it
corny.
into your own hands, do what you want to do, and then figure it out for yourself. Because if you sit back and try and wait for the opportunity to present itself, it won't come.
It was so great having you here today. I love the energy you bring. I love the mentality that you have. You are so young and you have so much ahead of you. And I love the fact that you want to teach and educate and get other people who are kind of in your position to a place where they can take control of their life and get to where they want to go. It's just so admirable. What I realized over the last couple of podcasts is I love having younger people on and seeing their grind versus where we are and where their headspace is at. It's just so wonderful to see.
It's wonderful to see, but it's also it makes me feel like I'm so stupid sometimes.
don't no self-deprecation here. All about growth.
Yeah.
All about growth.
Exactly.
I appreciate that though. And I don't have it figured out. I'm still figuring out every day. I'm just, day by day. Like, these are still things. Everything that I say are things that I'm still working on myself, like trying to get better. So
Bro, you don't have to tell me, man. One bite at a time. That's it. I don't even know what I'm doing next week, so
They say you'll find out when you're dead, you know. So
exactly.
you'll find out what it is, what you should be doing when you're dead, which is, just dying. Like,
And honestly, yeah, appreciate life too. With Kobe passing, that stuff really
Oh, man,
affected
Kobe.
me. But at the same time, it kind of, for me, just shed light on the fact that you can be here for a moment and gone the next. So just do what you want to do what makes you happy, try to be your best self, and then hopefully you can be
R.I.P.
remembered for it.
R.I.P. Kobe.
R.I.P.
For sure.
Well, this has been a great podcast. I want to thank you so much for coming by, Amin. Why don't you shout out your handle, let everyone know where you're at, where we can follow you, and how we can keep getting updates on what you're doing.
Oh, I've never had to plug anything before. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Amin, like the end of a prayer. My last name, Obano. And yeah, hit me up on there. I'm really trying to work on some things right now. If it gets to a point where I'm comfortable, you'll hear about it then, but kind of going to keep it quiet until things start to come into fruition. So yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it. So this has been Sunday with the Boys. If you guys liked what we were talking about today and you guys have some stories to tell us, please like and comment down below.
and subscribe to the YouTube.
Oh yeah, gotta hit that subscribe button, guys. This is Sunday with the Boys. I'm saying
I'm Jerome.
Amen. Thanks for having me.
peace.
See ya.